Good, what are we, afternoon, everybody. It is, I'm thinking Thursday or Friday. It's Thursday. I've got one of my good friends, Jesse Hal from The Missing Link, coming on. First of all, everybody, go subscribe to his channel, number one. Number two, if you found me because of him, thank you for watching. Number three, it's his 50th birthday, and he agreed to do an interview with me when he should be taking over the world. So without further ado, let me bring him on. Hello, sir.
Hi, Micah.
Thank you for coming on, and happy birthday.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. And I gave you the options of which days, that I was open, and you picked on my B-day. And, I didn't tell you until, was it like yesterday or was it today? Yeah, I just told you, but I just thought that was great that you picked it on that day. I knew I wasn't having any interviews scheduled except for later on today. My girlfriend is going to be interviewing me, and I'll be interviewing me for the first time on The Missing Link. It's our 600th interview, and she'll be interviewing me for the first time on our show. So anytime somebody asks me, I feel humbled that people actually want to hear what I have to say as well.
We do. You're fantastic. You're a beacon of light. You give a lot of people happiness with your content, and I follow you on Facebook too, and you are very devout to your woman, and it is very nice to see you guys posting pictures all the time, all over the place, whenever you guys have. So those are really fun to see. But I have you on today because I would like you to explain to people, maybe some people are thinking of starting a channel, and I've gone through my journey. I've talked about it before, but you're at a much larger platform than I am at this point, and you're constantly booking, you're getting amazing guests. For people who are interested in starting this, can you explain to them basically the grind and what you kind of have to look into, if you don't mind?
Well, one of the philosophies I go by, you build it and they will come. So it's just a matter of, you getting out and doing it. There's a lot of people that have started channels through the inspiration of me and how I've, been so diligent and be able to do what I've done. When we first started, we had done this truth telethon, and what it was where we got a whole bunch of different truthers, and we put together this program where we went for, I think the first one was 13 straight hours, 26 people, back to back half-hour slots, 15-minute slots, and we went, and it was really chaotic and crazy, and the very first one, some people didn't show up, some people were late, some people saw I'm in the back trying to get people while I'm hosting and emceeing and introducing, and that was the very first time that I ever done anything like that. And I work really well under pressure, so it was awesome. I enjoyed it, I loved it, and everybody was like, you found your calling, Jesse. And I was on lots of lives before, I've been going live, for maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe even more now, and but just guests on shows or whatever, people would I'd just be talking with people about what was going on in the world. And so once we had this truth telethon, we had the first one, and then in the second one of the people who I put the thing on with, her and the other guy that she brought in had some kind of a fight or whatever. She wanted to go on and talk to one of the famous people, and he didn't want to let her, just let Jesse do his job, and then she left, and then he wouldn't let her back in, and then ever since then she's been thrashing my name for 3 years. She won't shut up about me, and saying all these things. But we had a third one, she didn't participate, and then that was it. I didn't have any more of those. And then I've had obviously a list of people that for those 3 telethons, and then talked with my girlfriend, and we decided to start our own show and call it The Missing Link. I was going to do a business with another guy, and we were going to call it The Missing Link. And so I was like, what a perfect name for this new show, The Missing Link, looking for any missing links about the person or the world around us that they want to share. And first one we had was Hannah Maria, which was an activist out of Spain. She used to work at the UN. And then second show we had Juan Antonio Manzur, a friend, he's a ex-military guy. He's an online content creator. Then we had John Paul Rice, who is a Hollywood actor. He was a 2-part show just because his story is so compelling. And then by show I think it was like 5 or 6. We had Sasha Stone. By show 7, we got Lee Camp. So I saw Lee Camp for years. He's a political comedian that thrashes both sides. He's had like millions of followers and like, you know, views on all his stuff. And then I just reached out. I said, hey, I just started a new show and I'd love to interview on it. And he said, sure, but give me some time. So I couldn't believe how easy it was. And so he was show 7. And then I knew someone that got interviewed by David Icke's son. And he said, well, here's his email address. You can, pardon? No, Gareth. Gareth, okay. Yeah, and so he gave me Gareth's email, and he said, and I never even heard of Gareth, and I didn't know too much. David Icke, I've never really followed his works. I've obviously seen the clips, seen a little bit about it, know what he's about. Didn't really know too much about him, but I knew he was very, very well known in the world, and so I didn't even know his son, so I didn't even ask for his son. I just said, hey, you know, I've got this show called The Missing Link, and I'd love to have, you know, David Icke on it, and they just said, sure. I was like, wow, this is great. Everybody that I'm asking it's like it was divinely, you know, timed and divine. It was just divine energy behind it. And once you have some big, you know, famous names as like David Icke and, you know, Lee Camp and Sasha Stone. So when I send emails to everybody and I just say, hey, you know, I've had these people on my show. Would you like to come on? And like almost everybody that I've asked said yes to come on my show. I like couldn't believe it. That is just one after another, and all these very well-known doctors. So in our 600th interview, which is going to be today, we've had over 60 doctors. So 10% of all of our shows have been actual doctors, whether they're medical doctors or naturopath doctors or chiropractors, you know, anybody in the medical field. And we've had probably about 30 nurses, if not more. I didn't count the nurses, but it's just kind of gone from there. So for the first year, I must have sent out 1,000 invites. I just, you know, had
where do you find them? What I usually do is I message them on Twitter. How do you usually reach out to them?
So a lot of these very well-known people that I find, they don't have a contact on Twitter. A few of them do, and I've reached maybe 10 probably out of the 600 on Twitter, but most of them don't have the link that you can actually message them, right? So what I do is just look for their websites, look for any of their emails, most of them are emailed. So I created a nice, well put together email. You know, it's, you know, we love your work, you know, we'd love to have you on our show. And then I put, these are people that we've had on our show. And then, you know, I just copy that, change the name, and send it to everybody. Like for the first year I did that. And so we've been on for about 2.5 years, and I don't really do that much anymore. Most of the people that come on the show now for the last probably year is either referrals or people asking to come on the show. So someone will say, or I'll watch a video and I'll be like, oh, I want to interview that person. So I go and I try to find their contact wherever it is, whether it's email, whether it is, and then I just send them an invite. And then, you know, and so I'm not mass inviting people, but we've got right now, I think 50 people pre-booked to be on our show. We're booked for all of the rest of October, all of November. I think there's one slot left in December. And then I've already got a couple bookings in January now. So, you know, it's pretty wild how this thing has just gotten a life of its own. And that's why I say, if you build it, they will come. And if, you know, you put your heart into something and it's good work, good content, you actually are putting your energy, the divine creation will align with you and help, you know, you along your journey. And I think that that's what source, you know, creation does. It just helps us along our journey, whether people want to recognize it or even see it or not.
Now, would you say that it's absolutely imperative that when you interview people, you just be yourself and not try and be something else or try and have this big persona if you don't have it? And the other thing I wanted to ask you, which was really interesting, you brought it up at the beginning, was that you talked about going live. Now, I know you're familiar with Rex Bear from the Leak Project, and I was talking to him, and I was like, dude, how did you grow so fast? How did you grow so big? And he said, I would just go live all the time. Is that like a secret to success? And why do you think that is?
One of the things on live is people can be on there and be interactive with others, and people can be seen, people can be heard. And it's like, when you're live and then all of a sudden you got 10, 12, 50, 80, 100 people on live, and people are commenting and then they're interacting with each other. So it's more than just two people interacting with each other. And a little bit different with our show, The Missing Link, we like to include our audience questions, audience comments. Like, some people, it drives them bananas that I put the comments of people's comments at
Not
the
that it
bottom.
drives them bananas, but as a guest on your show, I can tell you humbly is that because what you would do is you'd bring it up and it would go in the middle of the screen. And what I would do is I'd be in the middle of a thought and I would be looking over to the comment and being like, "Oh, I want to address this." And then sometimes it because you want to read what people are thinking.
It messed. What I meant with the bananas was the people in the comments, like in the audience. So some people don't like them, and they're like, "Oh, those comments are driving me bananas. I can't concentrate or whatever." But as well as some people get put off, like you said, by the comments. And so what I'm very perceptive. I'm very intuitive. So as I'm watching things and I see people getting sidetracked that I'm interviewing by the comments, I'll put less comments, or I'll just stop the comments altogether, because I don't want to distract the person from being in their flow because they want to read the comments and stuff. So I'm going to try to figure out a program through OBS Studio where you can it's free. So StreamYard, I'm paying like $50 a month right now, so I can stream to 8 US, so I can stream to 8 different platforms at the same time. There's a $25 a month where you can stream to 3 platforms at a time, or you can just stream to one platform for free. If you don't have to pay, but you can only do it to one platform, right? And so anybody can get on StreamYard. If you're thinking about doing a podcast and you're not sure, you can get onto StreamYard for free and go live to one place, one platform at a time, and get used to it. See if you like it. See if you can build an audience.
They give you, I think, a month, right? They give you a month for free.
I thought it was free forever. I thought it's just. I think it's. Right. I don't know if it's changed from when I got on it a couple of years ago, but that's how it was. If you just wanted to stream to one platform, it was free. And so I'm not sure if they've changed that now, but that's kind of how it was. So, yeah, and it's been quite the journey, and it's really neat to meet a lot of people. And like, I'm really like a student of life. I'm a sponge. I really genuinely care about people. I care about what they have to say, and I've interviewed like some really off the wall people from one side to the other. A few people that I've interviewed believe really in their heart that they're Jesus Christ reincarnated. I've interviewed a few Archangel Michaels. I've interviewed a guy that believes that he's Archangel Michael, plus he's Enlil, and he's potentially Eric Clapton's illegitimate son. And I hear all these kind of. One lady, she's been impregnated by an alien when she was like 9 years old, and then a tall gray, and then a Nordic alien came and had to remove the implant or remove the child. So I hear these wild stories, but I don't look at people as as crazy. Everybody's got a story, and I really want to just get to know them and their story in an honest, genuine way. And when you talked about people being themselves, that's one of the most important things, especially if you're talking to someone very well known and you want to try to outshine them. It's going to make you look bad, right? Like for me, when I interview someone, I just humbly listen and wait for the cue for me to jump in, opposed to there's other people that if they don't like the way the person's going or they're talking too long, they'll interrupt them. Okay, well, no, let's get on to this. And some people don't like that as much. Because
you see some personalities like that. A year or two before he even got famous, I had been on Alex Stein's Conspiracy Castle a few times, and he's very different than people like me and you. He is you could just, when you first talk to him, you go, this guy's a superstar, because he's got that bubbly, boisterous personality, and it is very, very overpowering at times, because he's just so out there, in a good way though, and he's doing fantastic. Isn't it? Do you find it's crazy to see like you go on, like, the podcast community for the most part is a big open family for the most part, minus the drama. There's some drama, right? Just like everything, but it's a big open family. And like when you start to see certain people elevate, right, and rise to prominence, isn't that such like a surreal feeling to see people become like famous off of what they're doing in a way?
It makes me really happy. I love people's successes. Like there's others that, potentially get jealous of other people's successes. They try to knock people down. They're trying to cause disruption. They're causing, people to not like the person by slandering them. So you see that in amongst the jealousy. But, for me, I love when people are, doing things, making waves, rattling these cages, because, even though this is a UN slogan, we are all in this together. And and that's, the more knowledge we all have, the less power they have over us. And I think that that's one of the biggest motivating factors, is enlightening people that are willing to listen and actually opening people's eyes, minds, and hearts to what's really going on in this world. And I've been doing this, I've been awake and aware for 30 plus years. So I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And I never at the scale that I'm at now and reaching the amount of people that I'm reaching now. And it's a very humbling thing to know that, I'm like known by people in the world. And it's, it's a really cool feeling.
Yeah. When I get those messages like, hi from Finland, I'm like, oh my God, and things like that. I try and stay are you at the level right now where like when, do you still comment on people's comments on your thing, or are there just too many at this point that you don't?
I've never really did the comments. I've never really responded too much. What I do is I'll try to like go on all the last recent ones and just heart them all. But I have like for my interviews, there's usually no less than 300-400. Sometimes there's 1,000 comments on 1 and 2 hour interview. So I can't really I'm so busy just with the bookings, with the shows. We do shows 5, 6, sometimes 7 days a week. We're doing 5, 6, 7, 8 shows a week. These are 2 hour, broadcasts. Sometimes 2 hours a week. We've gone 5 hours. Like I've talked to doctors and other people that have gone 3 times, I think, over 5 hours, wow, for the interview and stuff. Right. And then all setting it up and the bookings, and then a lot of people, sending messages and sending. So there's a lot that goes along to it. I wish I could respond to everybody's comment, but I kind of bring it up in the interviews. So I kind of see them, I read them, in my head, and then the good ones I'll mention, or I'll, ask questions or whatever if there's any good comments and stuff that come. So I do actively have, kind of audience participation without me directly having to respond to each comment.
Right. Now, do you have an assistant yet?
No, me and Angelene. So Angelene helps with the graphics. She helps share it out. She's like, does videos and things. So, but 90% or 95%, because she's busy with her kids and her life and her stuff. So she just helps out when I need. But most of this is the work that I'm putting into this, and I really enjoy what I'm doing.
Beautiful. So before you did this, what is your trade by nature, Jesse?
So I got kicked out of my house at an early age, and then kind of got adopted into the streets. Some really rough and tough people taught me how to take care of myself, and taught me the way of the streets and stuff. And then I didn't want to be kind of involved into that life, and so I kind of got away. I put myself through adult upgrading school. Then I went to college I was an adult upgrading school. I got 100% in the math departmental for grade 12. It was me and some Oriental kid were the only 2 people that got 100% on this exam. I wanted to go into business. I thought marketing, because I'm a people person, talking and stuff. And because I did so well in math, they wanted me to go to accounting. So I went to business administration for accounting, then switched over to marketing, then went to web design school. I worked for a few oil companies. I'm in the purchasing department. Didn't really like that. At all times I was, kind of side hustling, making money in the bars and pool and all kinds of stuff. And then I did my own thing with my own companies. Like I helped some companies become very, very successful without a contract, and got shafted, made no money off of this kind of stuff. So I was in and out of the business world, but before, when I was growing up, my dad was a house painter, like house and commercial painter. So he taught me how to paint. And so 4 years old was when I was first, like they managed apartment building. 4 years old, I was there rolling walls and stuff starting at 4. And by the time I was 12, I was working at, the companies he was working at every summer, making money. And I had money, 12, 13, 14. And then that's after that, I got kicked out when I was like 15. And then so when I went back to, before I went back to the adult upgrading school, when I wanted to get out of the life, my dad ended up getting me a job at a nursing home and doing maintenance, painting, fishing diapers out of toilets and changing rooms and stuff like that. And then every time when I would do something like, help someone in the business world, spend, a lot of time and effort and get shafted, I'd go back to painting to make money and then go back in the business world, go back. And I don't know, about 15 years ago, maybe 15, I just decided to screw the shark eat shark world, step on people's heads to get ahead type of business world. I didn't like that. It wasn't me. And so then I was just, full time getting my own painting contracts, away from the system, away from, taxes and all that kind of stuff. I just get jobs, do a job well, they pay you, get a job, do a job well. I don't advertise. I don't have a business license. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. But I've just been able to do quite well, and quite well meaning, like keeping my head above water, right? I've never had massive amounts of money, but I've always, done well. Like I've lived in houses that are 5,500 square foot with indoor swimming pools on lakes. And like I've lived a really good life because I know how to make money. I've just never owned any of those properties. I've never had, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank or whatever. I've just been able to figure out how to be very successful in living life without having to succumb my morals or to do things that I don't want to be doing.
So let me ask you this question. I pose this all the time. I say that knowledge can be attained by anyone, but wisdom comes through pain and suffering, right? Do you see your hardships growing up do you attribute that as to the kind of peaceful, loving, fun person that you are now? Do you see a direct connection?
Well, I've always been different, and I've, kind of always had a special heart. I got bullied a lot when I was a kid, so I did have a lot of that pain, suffering, hardship, which just, solidified. I guess I could have, when I first got kicked out of my house and I was hanging out and, with the street guys and thugs and gangsters and all that kind of stuff. And, we would be like, I'd be looking for bullies to beat up because I was angry, and anybody that messed, I would literally, I'd see somebody being picked on and I'd walk up, why are you picking on my friend? I have no idea who the person is, but I would be all of a sudden their buddy. And I've actually got really good friends over the years of people that I've helped to stop being bullied, right? And things like that. So I was a little at, a point in time that I was, kind of out there fighting all of the time, right? I was just kind of angry, I guess, but I never lost my heart. When I was hanging out with these rough and tough people and things that were going on, I'd be bringing people insulin and, doing things to try to help people. And anytime I seen stuff like even gangsters, my friends picking on other people, I would stop them. And I'm like, no, you'd have to go through me to get to them. And these are like,
did the people on the street start to see you as kind of like an enforcer type?
People used to open doors where I would go, guys and girls would open doors when I'd walk into places and things like that. So it was quite fascinating. And I've always had a lot of luck. I would play this game called Chud ID. It's a Chinese version of Asshole. And I'd go to Chinatown and I would play these money games with these people. We'd go to, after the bars, we'd go to this Chinatown, and I'd be there with maybe 20 people, and everybody'd be ordering food, and I'd go play this Chud ID with the owners and these old Oriental guys, and I'd win every single time. I'd win $200, $300, $400, and I'd pay for everybody's dinner. So it was almost like they paid us to come there to have dinner. It was really weird, and everybody loved it because they never had to pay for dinner every night. I never lost. They're always like, you come back tomorrow. You come back tomorrow. They'd always want to win their money back, but I never lost. Never once did I ever lose at that game when I went there for some reason. So it was great for me, and being a little inebriated and still being able to win at this Chinese game was kind of a fun thing to do. So I've always, like I said, I've had lots of luck. I've been very, very fortunate and blessed that energy, the vibrations, and I think it's because of my heart and what I put out into the world responds back in kind to me.
Absolutely, the law of attraction. Now, let me ask you a question, because we know your background now. I want to know how you got involved into spirituality, and then I want to ask you, in the way that I have astrotheology, I have like a linchpin on one thing, in a sense, even though I talk about a bunch of different things, it always comes back to astrotheology. Do you have a spiritual thing that you go to? So if you could just answer those two questions.
So I was born a Catholic, and I did, my baptism, but never did First Communion, never did Bible study. My parents, my dad was not into that at all. My mom would take us to church sometimes at Christmas or at Easter, but that's it. And it wouldn't be even all the time. So I knew nothing about spirituality and religion, zero, not at all. Like I even, I even had people calling me God when I was like younger and, things like that. It was just an interesting dynamic. And then when I was, I think 17 or 18, I befriended a Christian girl, and she would go, you need to come to church with me. So I'd be going to church with her. And
were you together?
No, just a friend of mine. And okay. I would be hanging out more. I've had more female friends than male friends, even though I've had lots of friends, but I've got along better with females, than I have with males. And I'm the type of person that can have female friends without having any type of sexual relation with them. Like friends are friends, people are people, right. I don't, sometimes they say, well, guys and girls can't be friends. And I break that mold, or I call bullshit, because that's it's been something I've been able to have a lot of friends without being intimate with them, and throughout my life, and still have them now, right? Mm-hmm. And so we'd go to church, almost every Sunday, trying to learn, and I got the Bible and I'm trying to read it, smoking my spliff, falling asleep to it every night, this person begot to this person, and just trying to figure out what this book was, right? Because it wasn't easy reading, and it wasn't very entertaining. It wasn't very, but I'm trying to read this book. And I remember one time we were going out to the mountains before we went to church, and I was driving her car, and the RCMP Scott's just speeding. I don't know, going like 30 or 40. I'm always a very, very fast driver, and he pulls us over, and why are you speeding? And well, we just needed to get to the mountains before we had to go to church. Oh, you're going to church, he says, right? He just let us go because we were going to church. I was like, this is great. I'm like, this church thing isn't too bad. But listening to some of the pastors and stuff, it was kind of dry, and it was kind of like, again, like sometimes would be falling asleep. Sometimes it wasn't really captivating for me. It wasn't anything that I ever did. But when I was going to that adult upgrading school, I don't think I was like 21 or 22, and I decided I wanted to baptize myself. So I was with my buddy, and I wanted to become born again, and I wanted to baptize myself. I wanted to, devote my life into Yeshua, Jesus Christ. I wasn't really calling Yeshua at that time. Didn't really know that name at that point. And we drove to this pier where this lake. Later on, I ended up moving on that lake where I had my own private dock and stuff. But at that lake, there was this little bar, and I ended up having a friend that owned the bar later on. It was kind of strange. I ended up knowing the guy who didn't know the guy who owned the bar at the time, but it was, I don't know, about like 1 a.m. and the bar was still open, and we went down to the dock. That's right where the bar is, and I stripped butt naked, and then I just baptized myself, and just said, I'm here as your humble servant. servant, to take me, and I'll just guide me as your instrument, and I'll do whatever it is you need me to do. And then I remember getting out of the water, and then there's everybody at the bar window looking. Somebody must have said, that guy's naked, and he just jumped into the water, right? So there's all these people that are like looking out the window. But that was the time that I became born again. And then, with the Bible, I didn't really, touch much of the Bible, didn't really go. I went to churches here and there. When I went to, before that, when I was in college, I had a Muslim friend that taught me the Quran, this was in college afterwards. Afterwards, I learned about, the Quran, and we were in the hallways, like in the stairwells, doing our prayers and all that. I was doing all the thing. I'm just learning, like I'm a student of life and religions, and, everything has validity to me, right? I don't like when people, this is the only way and everybody else is deceived and the devil, and and I think that's what, they want is people to be divided and people to be at each other, because
it's the fear over love is what it is.
Yeah, and most people that I've met, when it doesn't matter race, color, religion, whatever it is, most people are good people. Most people have kindness in their heart. There's the exceptions to everything, and it doesn't matter race, color, religion. There's douchebags, there's fanatics, there's psychopaths, narcissists, but that's a small percentage. Most people are good. And when I see most of the Muslim people that I've met some real scumbags too, and most of them have been really good, kind-hearted people, nicer than almost all of the Christians that I've ever met, because they're not judgmental like the Christians are. They're not, if you don't believe me and, you're wrong and you're deceived. And so when you have people talking down on Muslims, and then I'm like, they're nicer than you, right? So it's hard for me to, want to try to pick sides in this thing, where I think the ultimate, and I think Yeshua, what he did was he came to tell people, you do not need a middleman. You just can have a direct connection to the divine, to source creation. I think that's the ultimate message of what the book is that you can actually have this connection yourself, and that's what is meant to be. You don't have to follow certain rules or guidelines or things. Just be a good person, and I think you'll do well on the other side.
Beautiful. I absolutely love it. So is this what you do now, the missing link? Is this your full-time thing at this point?
Well, I don't really get too remunerated for it, so I still have to make slave money, I guess to say, in order to function in this world. We do have a subscription on Facebook where people can donate $3.99 a month to subscribe. I think we have we go anywhere between 16 and 21 subscribers. I think we're at 18 right now. There's some Facebook stars where people can donate stars. There's only a couple people that really do that. There's some people send every once in a while they'll send a PayPal or they'll mail me a check or whatever, but most of it, the first year is zero. I funded everything. The second year and a half now, most of the costs are covered, and there's maybe a little bit, but I'm making maybe $1 per hour, if that, of what I'm putting in, so I can't really live on that. So I still have to make external money, still have to whatever, paint houses or whatever it is I need to do in order to be able to.
There's literally nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I was just asking. Do you have a dream guest or a dream guests, multiple, that you would love to pick their brain?
Well, I'd love to interview Elon Musk. I think he would be a good one. Joe Rogan would be another one. I think that they would be two interesting people. There's some doctors that I've reached out to, Dr. David Martin, Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Ryan Cole. Those are some doctors to try to kind of complete the Robert Malone, I hear he's a real bad dude. He's, pretending to be on the people's side, but I'd really like to interview him so I can ask him some really good questions of the stuff that I've found about him and who's he's associated with. So like I said, we've interviewed about 60 doctors. Most of them are very famous and well known in this truth movement. And so there's still a few more that to kind of complete all of the ones, of the things, but I haven't been able to do that. But I'd really like to interview Fauci. I'd like to slap him, but I'd also like to interview him. But it's just whatever source creation the divine provides. I'm okay with. If I never interview these people, I'm fine. But these are some people I'd like to kind of check off the life list, I guess.
Do you, when I come on and interview people, unless it's like a very intricate topic, and then I'll have like a little sheet of paper where I'll write a little crib note on it. You're like, all right, I got this person coming on the day before. I know the answer to this already.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, do you just fly off the seat and you're like, oh, this jogs my memory for this question? Do you kind of trust your compendium of knowledge and your ability to have a conversation with someone, or do you write questions down ahead of time?
So when I first started, and especially when we did the Truth Telethon and we had all these 26 guests and I had Angelene researching, we researched every single person, all these lines, all these questions. Angelene was up all night researching to make sure that, I had all the information on the people. And then probably the first 10, 15 interviews out of the 600, we had questions written out, prepared, did all the research. And a lot of times I'd be like this, I'm interviewing him. And I was like, that's so lame. And so I after about 15 interview, I don't even do research for, most people that I'm interviewing. So a lot of times when someone pops up onto my screen, I've never even heard anything about them. I don't know. All I know is the bio that they send me. And then I ask them to tell us about themselves. And based on what they tell me, opens the door for questions, and then I just let source guide the way. I let whatever the people that are in the comments ask the questions. Sometimes I'll have a question in my head and the person goes on for 20 minutes and I've had a second question, a third question, and I forget all those questions. And then as soon as that moment pops in, I don't even remember what those other questions were, and another one just pops and flies out.
Exactly
I just let source guide the way. I think that, whatever it is at that time,
trust
whatever
your
I need.
Intuition that you're mentally there, that you can follow the conversation, that you'll always be guided. That's what I do. I rarely write down anything.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is now for the last 585 interviews. It's just been, and every once in a while, if it's someone who's like Dr. Shiva, the first time when I just interviewed him, like a month ago was the first time. We just interviewed him a few days ago on Monday. When I first interviewed him, I watched a few of his videos, right, just to get, and because, I think he's got some really good information. He's very intelligent. And I wanted to make sure that, I wanted to make sure I had the right info and the good questions for him and not look dumb, right? And, I'm pretty intelligent. I've been researching this stuff for a very long time, so I'm good with a lot of things. And like Jason Christoff, he's a self-sabotage coach. We've interviewed him, I think was the 4th time, just about a month ago. And he's been on like hundreds, if not thousands of podcasts. And a lot of his people said, this is the best interview I've ever seen him do. So I think as you get a lot of practice, the more I talk to people, the more knowledge that I'm gaining, then it's easier to feel comfortable talking to anybody or anything, especially if you feel you're divinely guided and source has got my back. So I'm not really, worried about looking dumb, even though I do every once in a while look at a few videos just to prepare myself a little bit.
Beautiful. So I have a question for you. How do I word this? This is such an interesting question that I'm dying to hear it from you.
Oh, don't die.
Do you find that people who are through academia are more interesting than self-taught people, or self-taught people that become expert in esotericism tend to be more interesting? Or if you could just speak on how you feel about both. Is there a difference?
I don't find one more interesting than the other. I think everybody is, good in whatever it is that they're, excel at. So if I'm talking to an academic, I'm interested in their academia knowledge. And if I'm talking to someone who knows nothing and they're just very esoteric, and I'm interested in that. So I don't really, one is not more, interesting or more compelling than the others. I think different people bring different things to the table. Not everybody is for everybody. So some people you'll find fascinating, and some people you're like, yeah, I don't even get anything that this person is saying. But for me, I look at everyone with an open mind, an open heart, and I just try to get the best out of whatever it is that they excel at.
Beautiful. So before we started recording, you said something that was really humbling and important to me that I'm going to remember. That you said that because were you familiar with my line of work with astrotheology before I came on?
No, I don't think I ever heard of astro. No, I think you're the very first person that ever really, like, I've heard some people talk about the stars relating to a few things, but I've never ever heard anything like what I've heard your teachings, and I really resonated with it and explained the Bible better to me than I've ever had it explained to me before in my life.
Wow. What so to speak do you think resonates the hardest with that? As somebody who was born again, but as you said off camera, that you said that you don't like labels, how I guess how do you see the importance in this? Do you think this has the ability to transform lives? Do you think this could
100%, because Angelene, which is my love of my life, my girlfriend, she was deeply rooted into Christianity. I think she'd be a great interview for you to have. She's read the Bible 5 times. She's read it twice in its original text. She studied cultures and languages when it was actually written in the apocalyptic languages, because she was so terrified to get out of Christianity. She was so terrified that she was gonna burn in hell if she left it, because of all the fear that's been put into people because of these false teachings, because they've changed the Bibles to fit their narratives, opposed to getting people to really comprehend the true meanings, whether it's allegory or whatever it is that comes from it. So she's my go-to. So she's my go-to when I need to ask some questions or things are going on, I'm having some, I'll ask her, because I really trust and value her opinion. And so she needed to do all that in order to safely get out of Christianity. And she realized that source, creator, God, Yeshua, Allah, whatever you want to call it, is love. God is loved. God loves us. Source loves us. Creation loves us. And when you come to that comprehension that you are loved, you have nothing to be afraid of. And even in the book, it says perfect love casts out all fear. You were created in God's image. Yeshua said, you can do everything I can do and more. So why should people feel afraid? Why should people, I don't get when, I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a God-loving man. I don't fear creation. I think that people have been programmed to be afraid. And I think that that's inverted from what source, creation, God wants us. They want us to love and flow with it, get messages, hear these vibrations, hear angels talking to you. Not, oh my God, I heard something. Oh, I should be scared. No, embrace it and feel it. And people are scared of that kind of thing. And so your work takes the Bible, the book, the scripture, the greatest story ever told, and actually it takes and puts it into realistic ways, like how everything coming from the stars, and what it does, it actually gives people a comprehension and makes it look like, and it makes people comprehend that it's more of an allegory and it's more stories, it's more describing the seasons, more of how things are going on, and it puts more real to it, opposed to this fantasy story. Whether you have to have faith to believe it, you actually bring more validity to the greatest book that was ever written.
You know, it's interesting because when people ask me, or people talk to me, and they tell me about my work, whenever I talk to countless people every single day, understand it's not my business, place, or pleasure to prove to you that the Bible is not literal. It is an astrology book. That's not my place. My place is to show you there's another way to read it. And once you accept there's another way, your mind will be open to other ideas. That's all it is. It's just a catalyst, you know? And I try to make it as convincing as possible, of course. You know, that's what I think people resonate with me, is that it's very easy to understand when I break it down. But I do enjoy coming on your channel and sharing it with your audience. They have some really great questions that come out. And so where do you see yourself?
I just wanted to finish on that. I think why I think your work is so important is because you can help people be less afraid or not afraid, because the Bible teachings with religion and, you know, Christianity, the way it's taught is that you should be scared shitless. And if you can look at it, you know, not in a literal way, but more of an allegory, look at other interpretations, then if you can help people be less afraid or not afraid at all, I think that's amazing. And I think that that's very important work.
It is. And the truth is that people who leave the most heartfelt comments or tell me their story about how this fixed them and they saved them, I become very good friends with them. And I'm always there for them. There's so many people that I talk to on, maybe not an everyday basis, but there are some that I talk to on a pretty regular basis, if not every day. And if they have any questions about something, I just come to them. Again, it just has to open the door. You know, I never said the Bible was only an astrology book, but what I'm trying to show is that it is dangerous to take something literal. That goes for every religion. You should not be taking these books literal. You're not giving the ancients credit. And it's like, one of my quotes that I usually quote is from John Dominic Crossan. And he says, it's not that the ancients told literal stories, and we're not smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they taught them symbolically, and we are not dumb enough to take them literally.
Yeah, that's great. And have you studied much about the Sumerian Tablets?
I've broken down about 3 of them. I've done Gilgamesh, and I've done 2 Enki tablets. Enki in the New World Order, and Enki and Nahura Saja. I'm saying it wrong. But Rex Bear sent me a link with all the tablets, and I'm going to get to them eventually. But I've done 3 of them so far. It's the same code.
It's the same story that all these different religions are based on, the same story, and Sumerian tablets probably predate all of these other ones. So all of the religions, all of the text, all of the scriptures basically, you know, come from Sumerian tablet base, and then they used the astrotheology, they used the stars to put these stories in their own spin, in their own way. And I think that that's kind of how your work kind of, you know, connects the tablets to, you know, modern day scriptures.
Well, I'm just explaining it to adults, because what do? Back in the day, there was no light pollution, there was no industry, there was no clouds, there was none of that kind of stuff. You could look out in the sky and see everything, and you'd see the stars doing crazy things. And kids would be like, "Daddy, what's this?" And they'd be like, "Oh, Zeus is fighting ... And then they pass these stories down that people eventually take literally. But what you're doing is you're teaching it to a child. So these are fantastical stories. Do you know what I'm saying? And it just opens up spirituality so much more when you get to know that.
One question I like to ask people is, when do you think fiction actually started? Because if, you know, you think fiction, was it around 100 years? Was it around 1,000 years? Do you think that they were telling these fictional stories like they're doing now? Have they been doing it throughout time? And if they have, these made-up stories 2,000 years ago, then how do we know anything from the past is actual literal, and it hasn't just been fictional work that's been glorified throughout time?
Right. Well, that's why I tell people. I go, you look at the news, you look at basically history. You know, all the narratives that go on. Everything is basically a lie. What makes you think that religion is any different? You know, I tell people when they watch the news, I go, every other thing, commercials, TV shows, soap operas, um, game shows, things of that nature. This is all fake stuff. So what makes you think the news is real? Do you know what I mean? Especially what we can do with all this kind of stuff. It's absolutely crazy. So please we have a couple minutes left. Just let everybody know real quick. You have any interviews coming up that you're excited for? I know you're going to say all of them. That's fine. But like, are there any topics that you haven't maybe covered yet that you're going to get a crash course in?
We got tomorrow. We got Eric Hecker and Jason Q Citizen. I believe Eric Hecker is living in Alaska, and Jason Q Citizen is from Australia. He's a citizen journalist from over there. We were supposed to do Reimer Fulmick on the Monday, the October 30th, but he's been arrested. So he's a lawyer in Germany that's been speaking out against and wanting to do this Nuremberg, 2.0 and all this kind of stuff. So he's been arrested. So she said, the other lawyer that contacted me and said, yeah, I don't think he'll be able to make that interview. And I said, well, what about you? You can fill in his place. And she's like, she didn't respond back to it. So that was one I'm excited about. Another one I'm excited about is SG Anon. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's another one of those in the Q conspiracy world.
Oh, SG Anon, yeah. I'm sorry.
SG Anon, yeah. So he's another one that I'm pretty interested.
I had two girls on my channel from Rebel Patriot Radio, two of my friends, Jen and Erica. And when you're talking about changing people's lives, I was telling you about changing people's lives. This girl, Jen, my work changed her life. It brought her out of the church, and now she's living her best life. I had them on to talk about Q, and then about halfway through the episode, all the comments got deleted.
Wow.
Yeah, they blocked all the comments. Comments were disabled.
That's strange. But one you're going to be excited about coming up on November 1st. Santos Bachi is coming on to the Missing Link. So he's been on one time before. The first time he was on, he double booked somehow. And then I guess the person that he double booked with, he had to cancel on them before. And he's like, is there any ways? Is this live? I said, yeah, this is live. I've advertised to every places. And so at the beginning, before we started, he just had his hand in his head because he was like kind of stressed that he had double booked and he had to. And so for the first part of the interview, he wasn't really, he was just kind of still, his energy wasn't there. But after he got to know me a little bit, and we started, we had a really good interview and stuff, right? So I'm really excited. He's been taking a while off of interviews. We booked this one a few months ago, and he said, yeah, he goes in November. And I was like, and I'm like, what day in November? He's like, November 1st. And then I was like, what time? He's like, well, I'm not sure yet. And so we just booked the time. It's at noon Eastern Standard Time. All of our interviews are live. You can participate. We go live on Facebook. We go live on Rumble. We go live on Twitter. We go live on Twitch. We go live on LinkedIn and live on YouTube. But if you're on Rumble or Twitter, the comments for some reason don't pop up in StreamYard. So we appreciate when people watch in Rumble because that's the only one that actually remunerates us for people watching and viewing. But if you're there and you're commenting, I have to click to another screen and I can see the comments, but I just don't bring them up on screen. All the other platforms, your comments, if you do make a comment, you can, your comments do get popped up onto the screen, especially if they're good comments.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Jesse, man, thank you for coming on and sharing your story, because I know all you do every day is talk to other people about their stories, but how often do you get to share yours?
Not very often. It's strangely and oddly enough, and I have no idea why, I've had more people that have invited me on their show to do an interview and never follow through than I've actually had interviews on other people's shows. A lot of people invite me, but for some reason they just never follow through. They're, yeah, I'd love to have you on my show. Sure, anytime. and then I just don't hear from them again. And I don't say, hey, like, are you said you'd like to have me on your show? And it's just oddly enough, a lot of people invite me and don't follow through. So later on today, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, Angelene's going to go in an in-depth interview. She obviously knows me better than anybody, and so she'll have some really good questions, and people will get to know me better, especially, from our audience, because not everybody that watches us is not watching you yet. Hopefully we can direct more people to you, and the goal is that we all just win. We all just get our information to as many people as possible, because if you truly believe it in your heart that you're doing good work, you just want to reach as many people as you can.
Absolutely. So tell everyone where they could find you, follow you, all that good stuff.
So you can subscribe to any of our channels. We have Rumble is T missing link. That's our favorite one for you to subscribe to. I think we're just about at 6,000 subscribers on Rumble now. Facebook is T missing link as well. We're over 16,000 on our page there. YouTube, we got 5 channels deleted on YouTube, started another one. We're up to, like 400 subscribers there or whatever, but we've had 150,000 viewed hours on YouTube. Never got a cent from them, and they just keep deleting us because of doctors, medical misinformation and stuff. But we're on that. We're also on BitChute, Odyssey, Telegram, and then Dollar Vigilante TV. They picked up our show as well. So they broadcast on, that's Jeff Berwick. He walks around with his dog, the stock guy, crypto guy. Yeah. So they picked up our show as well. So we're on 10 different platforms, but our favorites, are Rumble for you to subscribe to, and then Facebook, or if you want to help us build up our YouTube channel again, who knows how long that's going to last, because they don't seem to like us very much on YouTube.
Jesse, man, thank you so much. And again, happy 50th birthday, dude. Do something fun.
Pardon?
I said do something fun.
Well, I'm going to be interviewed. I just had Chinese food for breakfast. So I just I had some sweet and sour sauce. I stopped, like, some of the things I've done to help me along my journey. 10 years ago, I stopped drinking alcohol. 9.5 years ago, I stopped all synthetic drugs. 9 years ago, I stopped smoking cigarettes. And then 6.5 years ago, I stopped eating meat. So these are just things that I've done along my journey that's been in alignment with me. And but it's about sweet and sour. Pork was my favorite, but I love the sweet and sour sauce. So now I just get the the vegetable fried rice and get it side dish of sweet and sour sauce and fill it up so I can still get my fill. I'm gonna have pizza for lunch, and then some amazing soup that Angelene made for dinner. So this mushroom, this like reishi mushroom right from the farm mushrooms. It actually almost tastes chewy like meat. It's the strangest thing, but she made it last night. We'll have that for dinner, and obviously spending time with Angelene and my puppy Hawk is stuff that really makes me happy.
Beautiful, man. You're an amazing shining light. You're one of my favorite shows. You're one of my favorite people. I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing with everybody. Everybody, go watch his interview tonight. And then when is Santos's again? November 1st?
November 1st at noon Eastern Standard Time. So 11 a.m. Central, where he's at. He's in Mexico, I believe.
Yeah, he's on the west coast of Mexico, towards California.
So I'm not sure if you have been listening to Santos lately, but he's been going off. He's been flying off the handle.
People send it to me all the time. All the time. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I know they kind of paused on the esoteric school, but I've been teaching there. When he comes on, tell him I say hello.
I will. And y'all have an awesome time. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show. It's humbling to know that people want to chat and talk with me, and it's an honor to chat with you more. And we'll have to book you again, because always like your information, and people really resonate with your different interpretation on scripture. And I think that's really needed, because right now is the big divide, right? And people are trying to figure out what this whole journey is, and are you going to be supporting these dark paths, or are you going to be supporting the ones that are in the light? And so it's just important you choose wisely with who and what you are, and the path that you'd end up choosing through all of this pivotal time in history.
Absolutely. Jesse, hang on for a minute when I pull out, but Thank you so much for coming on, guys. Please watch his stuff. Amazing stuff. Thank you.